what would I love? Not what do I think I can do, or what does my bank account think I can do, or what do the circumstances tell me, but what would I really love? And another way to say that, I'm just putting it in more layman's terms here, is courage to know what you really want, like really underlined, italicized, because it's easy to vision based on what you think you can want. What you think you can have, or what you think you want based on circumstance. It's a different thing to vision for what you really want. Well, welcome to The Abundant Coach. Welcome back. I love this topic because it's about 4 steps to real personal transformation. And that is for you, of course, that you want to transform something, but also for your clients. How do we facilitate real transformation? So I want to start with a quote, as I always do. Real transformation requires real honesty. If you want to move forward, get real with yourself. These 4 steps that I'm going to give you to facilitate transformation to yourself, for yourselves, and transformation for your clients is what I would say massive transformation steps. I think when I was preparing this episode and saying to myself, well, how do you define transformation and what counts and what doesn't? I think there's just a spectrum. I think it's that to a certain extent, means to move beyond formation, the current form or current way things are. So if anytime you move beyond some sort of a current state of doing or being, I think that counts as transformation. So as a coach, there's a great variance of things you can offer. You can offer super low priced products like $27 or $97 that are recorded, that are evergreen, meaning someone just clicks to purchase it and they can watch it over and over again, and there's no live coaching with you. Like you can be more of like a digital coach, providing content and tools and things like that at a small price point. Knowing that the transformation, it's not that it's not going to help people, but the transformation is going to be small in scale compared to that one-to-one client you work with for a year, and you know the ins and the outs of everything, and you support that client personally. Their transformation is just going to be greater because there's a greater level of focus on it. Someone who takes an online course, the studies show, is without any live one-to-one or any sort of support, the likelihood of them actually completing the course goes down because they're left to their own devices. And, it's the way of the 2020s, I guess. It's just, there's so much content out there and so much to consume that sometimes people don't finish it. So does a free challenge provide transformation? We do a free 5-day challenge here. And yes, I think it provides transformation for people. Is it as massively transformative as when someone does a 1-year program with us? Probably not. So I think that there's spectrums, there's levels of transformation. And I think anytime someone goes beyond where they've been before, that certainly counts as transformation. What I will tell you at the Institute is we get really interested in and love supporting ourselves and our coaches, our certified coaches, to create massive transformation for ourselves and our clients. And what I mean by that is going from one point of life where, like in my case, I'm broke, I'm getting divorced, I'm teaching school, I don't like, a lot of things in my life, to going to what I was able to create: a thriving marriage, a baby, a multi-million-dollar business, a beautiful 5,000 square foot home in the Rocky Mountains. Like, that is massive transformation. Like, I don't think anyone can dispute that is massively transformative. I would say that probably the greatest transformation, though, is something that nobody can see except me. And that is my internal opinion of myself, my value, my worth, that if I'm lovable, which I am, but I didn't think so before. That internal transformation to me is highly valuable. It's a little bit less tangible because you can't really put a price on it. And only the client or you, whoever's going through that transformation, will really know what that meant to them. The difference it made in their lives to go to one opinion of themselves to another, or one pattern of, for their whole lives thinking this about themselves and then something different. So transformation can be inward, transformation can be outward. And to me, to go from one version of life where there's a lot of struggle to thriving in many, many areas of your life, that's massive transformation. And that's what we in particular are interested in here at Brave Thinking Institute, and what I think many of our certified coaches are interested in, their clients seeing those giant transformations that, just aren't common in human birth. So in this episode, it's like, what are the 4 things that lead to this kind of a transformation? I started with the quote about real transformation requires real honesty, because if you want to create massive transformation for you and your clients, there is a level of getting real, a level of getting real with themselves. Our mentor, Mary Morrissey, the founder of Brave Thinking Institute, will say this sometimes: you don't want to know what you really do know, because you don't want to have to do the thing you'd have to do if you let yourself know. Meaning that the reason more people don't get real with themselves is because their mind knows that they would have to change, or thinks it might be hard, or doesn't want to have to do the thing they're being called to do, and therefore stays stuck. So you'll see in these 4 steps to real personal transformation that all of them are get real steps. And I think there's a reason why more people don't massively transform on this planet, because it is rigorous work. In the book Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, he says to do this kind of work where you have to think truth in the face of experience, in the face of challenges, or you have to think from health when you're experiencing disease. That's the hardest work in the world that anyone will do. And because these 4 steps are so involved in a willingness to think differently and act differently and be different and embrace change, I honestly think that's why more people don't do it. Because to the human nervous system and psyche, change can feel scary. When you are a great coach, you help your clients to see that that change doesn't have to be so scary, and that it can really feel good, and that you're with them every single step of the way. And I believe that if more of us coaches who have a heart, a deep, deep caring about helping people in this way, just go out and kick our own asses a little bit and just go out and help people and stop overthinking it and overthinking websites and funnels and clicks and all of this crap that we've gotten ourselves into. And we really put the focus on people don't know this. What I'm about to discuss here, these 4 steps, 99% of the people on the planet don't operate this way, have never been taught this way. So if us coaches who have a heart for this kind of work can just go out and do it, you're going to see people have massively different results and much happier lives. And by means of that, I think you'll see a much happier and more expansive, higher vibration, higher frequency planet. So 4 steps to real personal transformation. And I'm talking about the massive kind of transformation. The first is a truthful audit or assessment. An audit, those of us who live in the United States and know the IRS, an audit can feel like a scary thing. And it's actually, if you think about getting audited, like you filed your tax return and then the IRS decides to audit you, cancel, delete. We're not inviting that or visioning that for any of us. But let's say that occurs. The reason why you feel afraid of that is because there's a bunch of stuff you have to do that you don't want to do. And there's some stuff you might know that you don't want to really know as a means of that process. It's not actually scary. It's like, okay, submit the paperwork, do whatever. They can say whatever they want, you'll survive it. But we get so scared of that because it implicates that we're going to find out something or we're going to know something. It's going to be hard. And so a personal audit, a real, truthful personal audit, or sometimes in our work, we call it a life assessment, is to get real with ourselves. What are the things in there that I might not want to know? And I don't think you have to spend too much time on the audit. Like, we don't want to pitch a tent there and like, where did it come from in my childhood? And you can do that, but I'm talking about different kind of transformation. So the truthful audit is like, what is it in my life that I'm not in love with? And a lot of people feel very scared to look at that, because if they say I'm not in love with my job, then they might have to change it. Or if they say I'm not in love with the relationship I'm in, then I might have to change it. And that feels scary. So when we're doing a truthful audit with our clients about their life, we want to give them permission to be brave, but also don't feel like they have to do anything today. That'll all honestly calm their nervous system down. If you're working with a client, you're wanting to take them through this life assessment or this truthful audit, you can say to them, you can help them with breathing, and you can also help them with telling their nervous system that the change doesn't have to happen today, and we can do it. And this is right out of our master coach, Kirsten Wells's playbook. We can make change in ways that feel really good to us. And your clients will take a sigh of relief from that. Oh, that change this can actually turn out well. And then the resistance to doing the audit goes down. What I mean by a truthful audit is you really want to get them to share what they're longing for. What's their discontent? What are they unhappy with? What do they wish was different? The truthful part comes to, some people will want to do the surface level because of the reasons I previously stated. You give them the opportunity to take it a little bit deeper. All right. After the truthful audit, because here's the thing, you can't change anything that you're not aware of. So after the truthful audit, that's when you would take a client to step 2. And step 2 is the courage to discover what they really want. At the Brave Thinking Institute, we call it Brave Thinking Tool number 3. What would I love? Not what do I think I can do, or what does my bank account think I can do, or what do the circumstances tell me, but what would I really love? And another way to say that, I'm just putting it in more layman's terms here, is courage to know what you really want, like really underlined, italicized, because it's easy to vision based on what you think you can want. What you think you can have, or what you think you want based on circumstance. It's a different thing to vision for what you really want. It's like when you're on the phone with your best friend and they're like, how are you? And you're like, yeah, everything's good. And they're like, no, really, how are you? Right? So like in this case, it's like, really, what do you want? And you give them permission to create this with a magic wand. There doesn't have to be a how. If they say world peace like a beauty queen, you're down with it. You're like, okay, there's got to be a way in an infinite universe to have that. In other words, we are not putting any of our own limitations or perceptions onto their dream. We're giving a magic wand permission. And if the client says, I want to retire at 30 and lay on the beach and drink Mai Tais for the rest of my life, that's a possibility, and it's okay for them to want that possibility. So most clients will not have that. Most clients will have something beyond that, but whatever they say, that's theirs to have. Now, in your own personal transformation, you couldn't dream an opportunity or a situation or a desire up that there isn't a way for it to come through. Our master coach, Kirsten Wiles, will often say, either God is or God ain't. And what she means by that is either these principles that we teach, these spiritual life coaching principles, they either work or they don't. And so if I believe that these principles work, and I really truly believe in personal transformation, then I know that there isn't a limit or a cap to what I can have in my life that I desire. If there was a cap, then why is it that some people get it? That doesn't make sense. I have personally served enough people in my own business, through the Institute. I've watched all the different colleagues and friends of mine who have done programs and seen massive transformations in things that seemed impossible. I'll give you an example of this. Our senior coach, Katie Augustine, she was a banking attorney for many, many years. She had a high-power banking attorney job, 6-figure paycheck, working, 60, 70 hours a week, wouldn't give herself a break, wouldn't give herself time off, making herself sick, all the different things. And our founder, Mary Morrissey, just said to her, what if you could make double and work half? Work half and make double. Katie was like, how am I going to do that? Her first response was no, nobody on the planet thinks that way. Well, Mary thinks that way because Mary knows that it's true and she's seen it happen. And as Katie started to hold work half, make double, and she started to hold that with herself, all sorts of things began to emerge for her that created actually a working half, making double. I can't tell you how many people have come through the Institute that worked for companies full-time, making a certain salary, left the company, and then ended up contracting with a company making more. Tony Bodo, some of you have heard his example before, where he's doing, analytics or data analysis for a company. Mary invites him into the same inquiry. He ended up leaving that company, but working for them as a contractor and making just as much as he was when he was full-time, but having more of his own freedom. So these are kind of things that are not common ways of thinking. And this is how I know personally, if you don't know it yet, that you, for yourself and for your clients, can dream up anything you would love. And it can happen. And it will happen if you follow the steps. So that takes me in a perfect segue to step number 3, which is that, let me say one last thing, because sometimes when we're dreaming up the courage to know what we really want and we're dreaming it up, we can ask ourselves, how do I know this is for my highest good and those around me? Because, for example, if you're in a relationship you don't love, and let's say you have kids, but spirit, life, higher self in you is saying this relationship is not good for anybody involved here, and you think about leaving, but then your fear says to you, but what about the kids? But what about this? And most people who get divorced hate each other and this and that. It can seem like living for your dream is not in everybody's highest good. And so how do I trust that this hard decision I'm making, or this thing that I'm visioning for, or this real transformation I want is actually for my highest good and the highest good of everybody involved? Well, let me give you an advanced coaching tip here. It is actually, in this lifetime, impossible to feel truly expansive about something that doesn't have a greatest good of all component involved in it. And you can research it, you can look at your own life, and you can say, has anything felt truly expansive that ended up bad for everybody involved? And when I say truly expansive, I don't mean nervous expansive, like I should make myself like this. I don't mean anxious, like, okay, I got to do this because I'm not talking about that. I'm talking that feeling that you know this is right. It feels good. It feels like sunshine. It feels like when I think about that result, I feel alive. You cannot manufacture that feeling. No amount of positive thinking can bring you that feeling. Let me give you an example of this. I was a school teacher. If I do positive thinking about being a school teacher, and I loved the years I was at my school until I didn't, right? And I think about being a school teacher, I can do positive thinking. I can say, well, this is an amazing career because I'm helping kids. And of course, kids need help. And look at how many lives you're changing, Lauren. And, it's really wonderful to work with such great people. I can positive think about my teaching job all day long, right now in the position I'm in. But can I get that job to feel expansive to me? No. In fact, if you gave me $1 million to go back and teach a classroom, I wouldn't take it because it doesn't feel expansive. I can positive think about it all I want. But if it's not meant for my soul at this time, it's not going to feel that opening, expansive, yes, I would love that, I'd do anything to have it feeling. And so you can trust it's in the highest good when you do have that feeling. That is something that not even positive thinking can manufacture, you being in love with a result that's not for you. If you said, you know what, Lauren, I think you should be on the first ship to go to Mars, because wouldn't that be a cool experiment? I'd be like, no, there's no part of my human being that would love to fly into space. Now, my husband, on the other hand, he'd be like, cool, sign me up. I'd totally go. Like, that sounds amazing. Because it's our souls are calling different things, right? And so if something doesn't feel expansive to you, no amount of thinking is going to make it feel expansive. So if something does feel expansive, it's for your highest good and for the highest good of all, because ultimately, I don't believe that soul expansion happens without there being a real, true, infinite, universal reason that maybe we can't even explain being a part of it. Okay, so that really leads me to step 3. I promise I'm going to step 3 now. The third thing is, how does it become sustainable? So the third step in real transformation is it's required that you work with your subconscious mind. All of human results stem from the subconscious mind. Unless you took like a serious psychology degree, and even some psychology degrees don't include this, but it's something that everybody who becomes successful does, even if they don't know they're doing it, even if they're what we call an unconscious competent. So working with the subconscious mind is this. The reason why, and I know sometimes I harp on diets, and I really actually do believe in diets can work and all this stuff. So I don't want you guys to think I'm like anti-diet or like anti-health coach or anti-keto or anything like that. I think they're all beneficial. And I will tell you the reason why so many people lose the weight, gain it back, lose the weight, gain it back. And it's just a really easy way to describe the subconscious mind is I'm changing an outward habit, like I'm going to eat keto as an example. I'm going to cut down on carbs. I'm going to let my body go into ketosis so that I can, lose weight and whatever. The reason why some people don't sustain that is because the thinking didn't change. So I changed my habit for a certain number of days and lost weight, but my belief about myself and about the world didn't necessarily change during that time. It can. For some people, just that transformation and sticking to something and all of that can actually change their subconscious wiring. More often than not, it doesn't. It's an external thing. And once it's done, I go back to the same result. Because what most people don't know is that our subconscious mind works like a thermostat. It's what we call a cybernetic system. It measures for variance. So cybernetic systems. I know that sounds super scientific, but a cybernetic system if you have a thermostat in your house, because you go up to that thermostat and you set the temperature and it keeps you at that temperature. And that's how all of our subconscious mind works. They keep us performing at the same results, which is why most people will make about the same amount of money their whole lives, will make about the same amount of relationship, love, and depth, will create the same kinds of friendships because they got a thermostat. And that setting, let's say it's set at 70 degrees in human birth, it comes from parents, the media, teachers, whatever you were absorbing when you were a young kid, giving you a certain belief about the world. And as a young child, you didn't know that you could reject that belief. So if you grew up in a family where money didn't grow on trees and parents lived like roommates and you stay in the same job even if you're unhappy, that's your setting. Whether you want it to be your setting or not, that is what it was installed in you, and your thermostat's at 70 degrees. And if you want it to get hotter, you got to go in and turn up the volume on a subconscious level, installing a new way of thinking about yourself and about the world. And the tricky thing is about this thermostat is if you start to do something different and you get to 74 degrees, it's still set at 70, it'll bring you right back, which is why when someone loses 100 pounds and they gain it all back, the belief didn't change. The image of the self didn't change. Nothing changed but that outward habit. And so when that starts to fade away and they got a little too skinny and a little too healthy and a little too vibrant for that set point, it'll kick you right back into submission if you're not watching for it and if you don't know the ways to watch for it. So you work with your subconscious mind at installing new habits, new behaviors, new patterns, new ways of thinking that change who you believe you are. And you can do that before you even lose the weight. And then it becomes sustainable forever. The other thing that I will say is in this whole work with the subconscious mind thing, the way you think about the world, the change in that also is required for you to change the way you think about circumstances. Just recently, my husband and I, we woke up, it was Saturday morning, and the floor seemed wet. And we were like, that's interesting, but not just wet like water spilled on it from the sink, like wet from below, like condensing from above. We realized our refrigerator leaked, and it leaked all over our hardwood floors, all into the basement and into the drywall, all that. We're like, cool, we might be remodeling our kitchen. So here's the deal. You can look at a circumstance, and you know what, let me just state, the first thing that went to my mind is a gratitude for having a kitchen that can leak, that we are ultimately so blessed that we have water that can leak in this house. When you train your subconscious mind to think differently, that will become your first reaction to circumstances and situations and conditions that you don't prefer. And everything is really hard until you get your mind in that mode where you can actually look at circumstances differently. So I was like, okay, this is first world problem. I'm grateful that we have a kitchen that can leak. Second is just the day before, my husband had said, wouldn't it be cool if we could replace this old microwave we have that we don't use that's built in? And he was like, or do we just wait to remodel the kitchen? So when this thing leaked, we were like, oh, well, I guess the kitchen remodel's coming sooner than we think. And I said to him, good manifesting, because we were just talking about that. There was a part of me that wanted to go to, I'm not ready. I don't want to remodel my kitchen. I like my kitchen. I don't want this leak. Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to go there, but what's that going to do? So it's the same with any circumstance a client is facing or you are facing. Their husband didn't like something that they did, or their kid is doing something, or the economy is doing something, or they just lost all their money in the stock market, or whatever it is. They got a diagnosis that they didn't prefer. The ability to handle the news, the circumstance, the situation differently, and know that that circumstance actually doesn't have them. You can have a circumstance without it having you. That actually I can get a diagnosis and not think anything of it. I can have a leak or lose all my money and actually not get panicky about it because I know I can think a different way to change my result. Now that is a much bigger and longer topic for a different day, but that is required for real and sustainable transformation, is programming your subconscious mind to think completely differently about yourself and about the world in a more expanded way than you ever have before. For sure. The last thing that I'd like to share is action, bold action. Transformation cannot happen by meditation alone or by thinking alone. Action must follow. So for example, if in my truthful audit of my life or in a client's truthful audit of their life, let's say they have been teaching yoga and dance to young kids for decades, and really their dream, so that was the truthful audit. I've been doing this thing for decades and I'm not in love with it anymore. And their real dream was to be a performer on Broadway. And there's going to be some ideas about themselves that pop up, but now you're 40 and nobody starts at that age and blah, blah, all those things. So the truthful audit is I don't like what I'm doing. The courage to know what you really want is I want to be a Broadway performer. Now I got to go to work on the subconscious and the belief that I actually can do that and it's possible for me and I deserve it and all those different things. That's the work I'm doing, repatterning my subconscious to believe differently. And whatever money paradigms I have around that and whatever people are going to think about me, repatterning all of that. And as your predominant pattern of thought becomes expansive, that you can do it. But you can do all of that. And if you don't take action to go to the damn audition, nothing's going to happen. So as you're creating this more expansive view of your life and yourself, ideas will come. And simply stated, the courage to act on those ideas will either complete the circuit of transformation or kick you right back to the beginning. So let's review and that's simple. I mean, I can't really say, I can tell you how to take action when you're scared and things like that, but we can do that in a different episode. But I ultimately just want you to understand the steps. Step number 1, truthful audit, or life assessment, as we call it at the Institute. Step number 2, the courage to know what you really want. Answering the question, but what would I love? What feels that warm, expansive, life-giving feeling? The third one is work with your subconscious mind to create a different level of thinking about yourself and about the world. And then step 4, the willingness to take the action on the ideas that come to you as you live in this way, as you live into this new way of being. I hope you took notes, loved that episode, are willing to apply it if it resonates with you for massive transformation. Thank you for being with me. And until next time, I'll see you on the next episode. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you never miss a new upload. You can help our channel continue to grow as we invest in creating more great content for coaches. Lastly, check the description below for helpful links to the resources mentioned in this video. Thank you and have an amazing day.